Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space and another Halloween card for my 2024 Halloween card series. At the very end of this video, in the end screen, I'll link to my Halloween 2024 playlist with all the videos I've done so far, and then I'll keep adding to. I've been getting a lot of questions about that. I will keep making Halloween cards right up till Halloween. It's generally what I always do, and I always have like more product, things I've ordered, things that were sent to me, and ideas more than time itself, you know? So, the set I'm using for this video is the Simon Says Stamp Hocus Pocus set. This came out last year, I think, and it's by Alberto Gava. He does fabulous little illustrations, and his coloring is just chef's kiss, amazing. I will hopefully remember to link to his Instagram in the description box below the video, because if you don't already follow him, you should. Especially if you want like color inspiration, especially with alcohol markers, because that's his forte and his coloring is amazing. So definitely check him out. And yeah, he's got all these cute little sets. I've used a couple of them in like previous videos in the past, and I pulled this one out. And as of doing this intro, because I was doing my, links and everything before sitting down and finishing off the video. As of doing this intro, this set is on sale along with some other goodies. I always have the sale category linked directly below as well. Check it out. It's only while supplies last, while the sale lasts, you never know. And yeah, everything I used on today's card is just oldie but goodie favorites of mine, and I will have everything listed and linked as always in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links, so that just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It is what helps pay the bills and keeps the channel going. And yeah, we're going to do some alcohol marker coloring, some heat embossing. I did some pouncing with my little paper pouncers to make a fun, mushy background. I don't even know how to describe it. You'll see it as I make it. And then splatter, of course. So, that's all the housekeeping. Let's get into making this card. So I chose a few images from the Hocus Pocus set because there are a lot. This is a big 6x8 set. It's so cute. It's so cute. I don't know why I didn't use it when it first came out. I've had it sitting here just waiting, and then I was flipping through because I keep everything, or actually no, that's a lot. I was going to say I keep all of my Halloween supplies together. Ha! I used to. Everything's everywhere. I've lost one of my spiderweb stencils that I've used in just recent videos. I can't find that for the life of me. I am a disorganized mess. Anyway, I chose this large pumpkin image and then all the smaller images from this set. But there's also, a little witch on a broomstick and a little wizard, and like it's also magic themed. Like it doesn't need to be Halloween themed, at all. It's just cute. So I stamped it onto Neenah Desert Storm cardstock with Simon's Intense Black ink, which is alcohol marker friendly. And this first little bit right here is real time. This is, the speed at which I color, which is not fast. I use my editing software to speed it up, just, for the sake of just time. And I talked about this a lot, especially during Stamptember when I was posting a lot of videos and did a lot of coloring. I really like coloring on the Neenah Desert Storm cardstock with alcohol markers. Not just Olos, but Copics, Spectrum Noir, Tri-Blends. Love it. There's something. I really like the look of it. And then specifically with Olos, I will link to my playlist that I have coloring with the Olo markers at the end of this video as well. These, you can connect them. They look funny in my videos because I am just using them as half markers, my little stublets. This just works for me for now. I am just waiting until they release. And I've been hearing rumors and people have been contacting me saying that they are going to release a fine point, like a bullet nib, because that's what I'm waiting for. So... And this works for me. It doesn't aggravate my hands. I've had people comment and ask me like, why are you doing this to yourself? And I'm like, it's fine. Like literally, if it was actually causing any issues with my hands, I'd connect them because they come with connectors, and then you connect two markers together to make one normal size marker. Anyway, this just works for me. It just does. So anywho, I'm just going around and coloring all the areas in with my markers. And I did all the pumpkins first, which is funny because I have talked about this a lot with alcohol marker coloring over the years, that anytime I have a little character, like a little person image, it has always been a habit for me to do skin, then hair, then everything else. And this time I went completely backwards, which I just find funny because, yeah, I think I've broken that habit for the most part anyway. So I did her hair green because, you know, we're doing a little Halloween card, and made her hat purple. Pumpkins were orange. I guess I could have done like some different colors, but yeah, I liked this orange combo that I did. So I was working also darkest to lightest. That's another thing I've just been doing for years for the most part, because it's more so just a convenience factor. But also I find, especially with the Yolos, because they are more juicy than any of the other alcohol markers I've tried. And I find going darkest to lightest for me personally is just easier because it's less time blending, so I'm not adding as much marker to my cardstock. That will also depend though on the cardstock you're using. I find with the Neenah, while I love using this Desert Storm cardstock, you can't add too much to it. I did end up having a little bit, just a smidge of bleeding outside the images, and I go in with my 0, and you'll see that, to kind of push it back, and it didn't really work. But in the end, I just layered the other pumpkins over because it just doesn't matter. So once I was done coloring, I took right there. See, this is where I was trying to like fix my little oopsies. But once that 0 dries, it's still like a little tiny bit of a mess past the edges. But after I die cut, and then once I assemble everything, I cover it up. It's all good. There's always ways to kind of fix things. So I used a white color pencil to add just soft highlights. This was just, I also really love this, especially again on the Desert Storm, because it kind of pops a little bit more. Just that white color pencil. I do at the end though end up going in with my white gel pen, because I do really love how the white gel pen looks on Desert Storm, because it just pops, you know. But I used the color pencil just to add those soft little highlights wherever I felt they were needed. And then I used the coordinating wafer dies to die cut these images. And then after I've die cut these, I'm going to work on my background. And I'm using another piece of Desert Storm cardstock that is A2 sized. And I'm using my oldie but goodie. This one, I have no idea how many times I've used this stamp. Many times. This is the spider web background from Simon Says Stamp. And I just put it face up on my work surface. And I use my anti-static powder tool on the cardstock to prevent the embossing powder from clinging to anything other than the stamped image. And then I inked up the stamp with clear embossing ink. And then I just flip the cardstock over and press into it. This is how we used to do it back in the day. Back in the day when we used to walk to school uphill both ways in a snowstorm. Back in the day before we had stamp positioners and we had big background stamps, this is how we did it. You can always use a stamp positioner for this. It just depends on my mood. And yeah, with something like this, I'm not worried about it stamping perfectly. It doesn't need to. And of course, it's when I'm not worried about it and I don't care that it did stamp perfectly. Who'd have thunk? So I coated it with white embossing powder. I tapped off the excess, and then I'm going to melt this with my heat tool. And of course, always tilting it kind of back and forth in the light. This doesn't really look like anything on camera. Like you can't even really see it like melting, because white also is not as fun as the metallics. Like the metallics show up nice. But melt this with my heat tool, tilt it in light. If there's any dull grainy areas, hit those with the heat tool. And then to add color, I'm going to use my little pint-sized paper pouncers from Picket Fence Studios. And I have 3 shades of Distress Oxide ink. Villainous Potion, Mowed Lawn, and Twisted Citron. And I've shown in other videos like getting a pretty good blend with these pouncers. But I purposely pull these out because I didn't want them to blend. And I'm not trying to blend the colors. I want this sort of splotchy, almost cloudy look. I was purposely kind of aiming for that with these. If I had wanted like a really smooth blend, that's usually where I'll get out my like blending brushes, things like that. But this was just the idea I had in my head. So I started with the Villainous Potion, and then I go in with Mowed Lawn, and I'm literally just pouncing with them, just not worried about blending the colors, not worried about smoothness. I want a bit of texture, and it just lends itself to, a Halloween card. And then once the background comes together, I was like, yes. So I did the 3 colors, and then I went back in with the Villainous Potion and just added a little bit more because this color is just, oh, it's so good. It's so good. So once I was happy with how this looked, I took a cloth and wiped over the background because any ink that's sitting on top of that heat embossed image needs to be just wiped away, especially that Villainous Potion, because it is so pigmented that if you leave it sitting for too long, it will stain. Not the end of the world, but I just wiped away the excess. It's good to go. And then I stuck this background into my splat box because of course I'm going to add splatter to this. And of course it's going to be Black Soot Distress Paint. So I put that on my palette, used my fan brush, and just added a good healthy dose of splatter to this background. And as always, the thing to remember with any distress paints, but acrylic paint in general, it does dry permanently, but Black Soot Distress Paint, immediately wash out. Brush, I immediately wash off, wipe off my palette when I'm done, because that will permanently, it dries permanent. So I set aside my background. And then another oldie but goodie favorite that I've used so many times is the Handlettered Halloween stamp set. And I took the big Hey Pumpkin sentiment. It was rather fitting for this card. And a scrap of Simon's, is it Royal Purple? I'll have it linked in the supplies cardstock. And again, use my anti-static powder. Stamp the sentiment a few times with clear embossing ink to make sure I got good coverage. Coat it with the white embossing powder, and then I'm going to melt that with my heat tool. Once everything's smooth and melted with this, I'll use my little microfiber cloth just to remove the excess anti-static powder off of the cardstock. And then I'll use the coordinating wafer die to die cut this sentiment. So get that excess anti-static powder removed, and then die cut my little sentiment. Love. It was just... for as disorganized mess as I am, I do love when I find some of my supplies and it's ooh, this goes with this perfectly. If I could only find that stencil, I'm going to find it in the stupidest place. You guys know, those that watch my videos, I still have not found that one pack of watercolor paper that I cut down. Still haven't found it. Cut down an entire another, anyway, I'll find it somewhere really ridiculous. So on the inside of my card, top folding A2 white note card. I put my trusty piece of Post-it tape right at the score line so I don't get anything past the score line. And then I inked up that spiderweb background with a light purple ink. This was Wisteria ink from Altenew. And before pressing the card base onto it, I pressed just scrap paper so that I got the second generation of ink on the inside of the card. So just a little bit lighter. And because I use my fingers and not a stamp positioner, some areas a little darker, some are a little lighter, which is fun. This worked out nice on the inside of the card. And then I'm going to stamp the Happy Halloween sentiment from the Handlettered Halloween set on the inside with black ink. So that finished the inside of the card. And then for my card front, the splatter is all dry. So I wrapped some baker's twine around this. And as always, you start the knot, and then I use my reverse tweezers to pinch that and hold it in place. And then I can fiddle and get my bow the way I want it to be. And then once I'm kind of happy with it, I can pull that tight, remove the reverse tweezers, pull it tight again, zhuzh it a little bit, and then trim off the tails. And then I'm going to actually end up shifting this down just a little bit, just getting it kind of where I want it to be. And then my little stamped images, I'm going to pop these up with just some thin foam squares, just leaving a gap for where the baker's twine is so I don't have a weird lump going on there. So get those into place. And then, like I said, you can't even really see it on camera, but the spot where the markers bled out past the stamp line, just can cover that up with the other little pumpkin. And then it's it never happened. So we're good. So we're going to pop those into place with the thin foam squares, a little bit of craft tacky glue. And then that last little tiny pumpkin was just big enough for a foam square. So pop that on there as well. And then the sentiment, yeah, I'm going to put it slightly at an angle to kind of follow the angle of the spider web. It just happened to work that way, and I was like, that's kind of fun. So I'm going to just adhere that into place with the craft tacky glue, and then stick this card front onto the card base again with the same just craft tacky glue. And then once this is adhered to the card base, I got to add just a little bit of bling. So I pulled out 2 different sets of embellishments. I've got the Summer Blooms embellishment mix and the Mermaid Tail embellishment mix, because I wanted the purple ones from the Summer Bloom and the really it's like violent lime green, like neon green, from the Mermaid Tail mix. So used both of those and then tucked them here and there kind of around this card front. Then once I was kind of happy with the placement, I'm just going to adhere those into place. And then this is when I decided, I was like, yeah, I'm going to use my white gel pen, because I wanted it to pop with the white heat embossing of the sentiment. It just, that's what spoke to me, I guess. So I just went around with my white gel pen, adding little dots and highlights. As always, I'm not really following necessarily any sort of like light source, just sticking them wherever I thought they would look cute, you know? So, and as always, this is a Jelly Roll 10 gel pen. My absolute go-to favorite, I've been using for years. The thing to always remember is if you let your gel pens sit for just really long periods of time, they'll stop working. Like they'll start to dry out, like right in the tip. Sometimes you can reactivate it if you warm it up in your hands and kind of like try and scribble it literally like on your hands. That sometimes will work. But if you use it consistently, less chances of issues. And I use mine quite often, and I've been using this one for I don't even know how long. So once I got those into place, that finished off this card. So like I mentioned in the intro, I'll have links to all of the things in the description box below. And then at the very end in the end screen, I'll link to the Halloween playlist, and I'll link to my Olo markers playlist. You can check those out if you are interested. And then as always, thank you all so much for hanging out with me during this video, for thumbs upping and commenting. It helps a ton. I very much appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!